Right, well, this is Adam Shaw, and today I'm very fortunate to have on the other side of my camera is Art Giser, who teaches Energetic NLP. So, thanks for coming here, Art.
And it's a pleasure.
Well, yeah, I'm really very, very pleased that I've got this opportunity. So, would you like to tell us exactly what you do?
If I could just say something quickly to the people on your side.
Absolutely.
The coaching you've given me has been really, really powerful. So I just want to say I've been a coach for many years, and I'm really fussy about who coaches me, and I've been so appreciative. And I've only gotten a little bit of coaching from Adam. It's been very, very significant. So I wanted to just say what a great coach you are.
Thank you, Art. I'm touched by that. Somebody is... And from my personal experience of working with Art, he does Energetic NLP. It's very, very powerful. It's worked wonders for me. It's cleared a lot of stuff. I'd really like you to get to know Art today. And so please tell us a little bit about what you do, Art.
What I do is a synthesis of a lot of things that I've studied in my life, which includes NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. I know you know that. For the people watching this video, NLP was something that was started in California in the mid-70s, and it was started by people who were looking at traditional therapy and going, people are being in therapy for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and still not achieving their outcomes. And yet there were some therapists who were like magical. The people worked with them and got phenomenal changes in a much shorter period of time. So they started studying those magical therapists and learning from them, and out of that came neuro-linguistic programming, which is a very powerful system that we both use that helps people make really rapid changes. And it's both for fixing problems, but also for helping people develop new talents and abilities. And everybody knows who's really gotten into NLP. It's hard to imagine your life without it. So NLP is at one core of what I do. Similarly, I've studied energetic healing and intuition development, spiritual development. And what I began to realize is while I was having great success with my NLP clients, that there was something missing. And I was having great success with my energy clients, but there was something missing. In the case of NLP, it was often so focused on practical goals and improvements in the world. And while that was wonderful, sometimes you kind of lost the big picture. And sometimes there was something that just wouldn't shift. In the same way with the energy work, there were times when I'd help somebody clear their energy, but then next time I'd see them, their energy was just back the way it was before. When I began to realize that they had unconscious programming and deep beliefs and energetic programming that was keeping them from maintaining the shift and really being who they were. So I started putting the NLP together with the energetic work, and it turned out to be to make each type of work much, much more effective and much more joyful experience for my clients.
Now you've got a very big scientific background, which is quite interesting for somebody in the energy world. Would you like to give us just a brief synopsis of what you were doing and how you moved into what you are doing?
Well, a little bit about my background too. My father was one of the early computer guys and an engineer and a really great person. And of course, you'd think as a computer guy, very good at logic, and really taught me a lot about that. And I was inclined that way too. I certainly had my intuitive side, but what I thought mattered was my intelligence and my thinking and my logic. And as a friend of mine told me, I'd made logic kind of a little god. And I was a researcher for the University of California Medical School in San Francisco, and we were researching the effects of estrogen and progesterone on the tissues in a woman's body. So I was really immersed in logic and precision. And something was really feeling hollow in my life, and something was missing. And what I didn't realize was missing is I'd shut down my intuition. And we got this part. I forgot what your question was.
That's all right.
In fact,
I think.
Okay.
Well, that ties in as well, because another thing about art is a lot of fun, and I think that's nice to capture on the camera.
Great. One of my things my clients appreciate is they learn, like, oh, you don't have to be perfect. So I was into all this work with logic, and what happened is I started having experiences that were showing me the power of intuition. And one of the most incredible ones was I actually a lot of my NLP friends, because I was in Northern California, so there were people who were interested in a lot of different things, said, oh, you ought to come over to my house. There's a guy coming, and he's a phenomenal psychic. And I went, oh, this will be fun. So I went, and a man named Lynn Martin, and I was there late, and everybody was in like a big circle, and Lynn was here, and everybody was sitting kind of in a circle like that. And Lynn had his eyes closed, and people were asking questions one at a time, and Lynn wasn't opening his eyes, so while he could have read their voices, he wasn't getting any responses from the nonverbal. So I thought, well, that's a good sign, because he couldn't just be like reading them on that level. And people would ask him questions, and he'd give them answers, and a lot of times the answers didn't sound significant to me, but I could see that they were really moved. And because of my NLP training, I went, I don't know what that meant to that person, and it doesn't sound like much to me. To that person, that was really significant. So I got really curious about it. And sometimes people would ask for advice, and they wanted the psychic to give them advice, and Lynn wouldn't give them advice. He'd always go, you have free will, it's not for me to tell you what to do. Well, I was learning NLP, but I was still in the lab, and I knew I was going to leave the lab and do something with my NLP, but I had no idea what. So when it was my turn, and he hadn't seen me ahead of time or anything, I go, well, you know, I'm learning NLP, and I'm curious what I should do with it. Should I take it into the corporate world or healing? And I'm giving all these choices. So he gives his, of course, you have free will, it's not for me to tell you what to do. And I'm thinking, darn. And then he goes, but there's something else. He goes, you have this fear. And then he proceeded to tell me that my deepest fear, which I'd never mentioned to anybody, and I still haven't mentioned to anybody, and he says it to me, and it probably didn't sound that important to anybody else, but I'm like stunned. And then he goes, with his eyes closed, you don't have to worry about that, and goes on to the next person. So that very next weekend, I started taking his courses. And 3 days later, I cleared my schedule, and that was it. And there's been no looking back since then.
That's fantastic. Do you think that people, when they tune into their intuition, that they're naturally drawn to certain people or places?
Yes, I think, well, I kind of have to do both answers. That yes, they're naturally drawn. They may not notice it. I mean, a lot of us have really buried our intuition. So some people are very aware that they're drawn to it, but then they question it and they go, but how do I know this is right? And does it take time or money? Or, you know, or my friends will go, why are you taking this course? Or I was taking a course. You know, there's all these logical things come up. For a lot of people, I think for most of the people probably would come to who would work with you, Adam, or on your website, are people that are aware that they have intuition and they do know when they're drawn to something. And let me say this, it difference between being intuitively drawn to something rather than you've been sold on it or you know, we all hear things like those infomercials on TV where you go, yes, my life will be better if I get a vegetable chopper, and look at what it can do, and I can make guacamole in 5 seconds, and you know, and you get caught up in the excitement of it. That's different than sometimes you just know something's right for you. And I think, yes, if the people will be watching this video, they'll know what's right for them, and most of them, unfortunately, will then talk themselves out of it.
Yeah. So for the benefit of the people here, just to give them a sample of what you do, could you give them a quick exercise of how they can actually start to feel better right now?
Oh, absolutely. A really simple exercise, and I may take a little longer to explain this. You'll be able to do this exercise in a minute, but let me just give a little background for it. One of the things that I brought from NLP into the energy work, and other people were doing this in other ways, is the realization that if you give your unconscious mind a metaphor for something or a symbol for something,